kula pitero kapi. Ngu marinj putan pinante kapul. Talanka ngalaka kuru pulol nia. Marin mai turi pinante. Ngu putan mukain watul main muri kutara macha kayala wayal. The stomping of the feet vibrates the ground and the dust explodes above their ankles as dancers tell their history that's been over 60,000 years in the making.
Yura, nanya namale nuro. Yura ngamale malara. Karingin na nami. Kanara. Wala. Matan.
I acknowledge that I'm hosting Go Rural virtually from the lands of the Turrbal and Yagara peoples and recognise that this land has always been under their custodianship. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands in which we study, work and live today. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging and celebrate the diversity of First Nations peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of Australia. I extend respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here tonight. Good evening, my name is Meredith, and on behalf of Health Workforce Queensland, I welcome you to Go Rural virtually Goondir. We also welcome the 80+ health students and 15 speakers that are online tonight, and invite your participation in tonight's interactive discussions that will take place across 4 sessions. The first session takes an Indigenous cultural focus within a health setting. Next, you'll be invited to self-select one of the 2 breakout rooms. In breakout room, you'll meet 2 Goondir GPs, Dr. Gary Woods and Dr. Nin Win, while breakout 2 takes a nursing, midwifery and allied health focus. After that, we'll come together for the final session that looks at the road to rural employment and professional development opportunities. So we'll be covering quite a lot of ground tonight. But to begin with, we're going to hear from the CEO of Goondir Health Services, Floyd Leddy. And just to locate us all, Goondir Health Services are located in southwest Queensland with practices in St George, Dalby and Oakey. So Floyd will unravel some of the mysteries of Indigenous health services and explain how Goondir has created a health service that invites community ownership and participation.
Yeah, thanks, Meredith. Before I start, I also would like to acknowledge the traditional landowners on whose land we are all meeting tonight. And to, okay, I don't actually have a structured presentation, but I was given some sort of notes that you guys wanted me to talk to. And I'll just begin with the first one, which was why Goondir came into being. Now, I was going to address this one by talking about health equity, and but I thought I would say that for the second question because I thought that fitted much better into the second question. So for me, how we came into being basically came about by the ATSIC Commission. So in late 80s, I think it was 89, the ATSIC Commission was established, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders Commission, and a lot of the Indigenous service funding was handed to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission Regional Council to manage those funds, make decisions on how those funds were allocated, which included health, housing, education, sport and rec, and so on. So in their first term, the ATSIC Regional, the Goulbury Regional Council handed their Indigenous health funds to Goulbury Dental Service or Goulbury Health Advancement, Cunnamulla, and Quatsich and Charleville. So basically, we were formed out of the ownership of the Indigenous health dollars when it was handed to ATSIC, or the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission. So that basically answers that question about, you know, how did Goondir come into being. The second question was, why are these services like Goondir? And this is where I thought I would address the issue about we were established to address health inequity between the local communities and the Indigenous leaders. All believe that in order for the health service to have an impact on Indigenous health was that that it would be best done by their own people managing their own health issues, and hence creating a culturally sensitive, culturally safe environment in order for those services to take place, so that it not only welcomed our Indigenous populations into getting their health services addressed, but made them comfortable in actually undertaking those health. What is the difference between an HAMS and a regular general practice clinic? I had this question asked to me once before by another training body.
Floyd, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sum it up is how I summed it up to them, and that was when our people walk up to our gates.
Floyd, I'm sorry to
Yes?
interrupt. Your bandwidth is very low, so your sound quality is not very good. Are you able to come off camera, please? That might improve the sound quality, and just mute your camera, and then that should improve. Thank you.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, sorry. So the for us, the third question was, what is the difference between an RHO or AMS and a regular general practice? I was asked this question in another interview for to do a promotional video, and I'm going to go back to the same example I gave there. Was that when our people walk up to our gates, they don't see a private practice, they don't see a hospital, they actually see their house. And we are just the housekeepers providing house services, because our mob know that our infrastructure and everything that belongs in our infrastructure that enables us to provide those services is owned by them. Because the reality is, we don't exist because of the community doesn't exist because of us. We exist because of the community. And they're aware of that, and they get a hold of our annual reports and stuff like that. And the first thing they look at is on the balance sheet, not the owner's equity, but the members' equity section. And they know that they are the members and that they own these things, these assets and these services that have been put there for them. So basically, that's probably the best way, other than the obvious things about holistic healthcare and, where we don't just look after our most physical well-being, but we also look after their spiritual, their social, emotional well-being, their spiritual, their cultural, the family and community as well. And the only way you can do that is to provide programs and activities that help address the social determinants of health, like employment, education, housing, political systems, and so on. And so that's probably the other against a private practice or a hospital. The next question I was asked to answer was, what does it look like on a day-to-day basis with an Aboriginal medical service? Well, your day once you walk into our clinic is greeting your fellow colleagues, and the fellow colleagues is made up of a multidisciplinary team. So you have Aboriginal health workers, we have receptionists, you have transport officers, you have a whole range of administrative staff, you have a allied health coordinator, we have dental colleagues, in partnership with USQ School of Dentistry. And so it's a multidisciplinary approach where with the allied health service staff as well in regards to referrals from our team, all the wraparound services. And those wraparound services isn't just limited to those allied healths, but it's also it includes those of our programs, like our Sugar Shakers program, where that's a program that we use our dietitian and our nutritionist and our Aboriginal health workers to conduct courses with our diabetes clients on healthy lifestyle choices and stuff like that. So it's a multidisciplinary team approach, and and basically working alongside a whole range of other service providers under the one roof. So we basically created super clinics. So that's basically the day. And the last question is to do with why would you want to choose an Aboriginal medical service, and stating the obvious about being a part of wanting to close the gap. But we hear a lot of stories about why a lot of health professionals, and not just health professionals, but students from the various disciplines, that are afraid to come to an AMS, thinking that they wouldn't be able to overcome the issues around cultural protocols and practices and so on like that. But what we say to students and other health professionals is, you've got something that we can't teach you, that the university is teaching you, but we can teach you all that sort of stuff. And that when you do come to us, that don't be afraid about those sort of things, because you're in good company. Because the reality is, we don't know our own people that well as well. So we always say, collectively, with our own expertise, our own experience, our own knowledges, we can make a formidable force in closing the gap together. And one of those examples I want to provide about, as an example about how we don't know our own people that well, and that they still even baffle us, is my mother, for instance. Like, my mother was stolen generation, so I'm from Cherbourg, and my mum and dad, got a permit to leave Cherbourg, and I'm trying to track that permit down actually. When they left Cherbourg, because they got a permit to leave, because Dad was able to show that he had a job and that he wasn't going to be a burden on society, and that he was going to be, go into a job and be, to be a good citizen. And after my younger sister was born up in Mackay, and by that time, I feel sorry for my oldest brother, who'd seen many high schools and state schools in his time, that it's not funny. So they finally, after the younger sister was born, my mother turned to my dad and said, "It's time to go home." So we slowly made our way back to Cherbourg, and the only accommodation that was available for us was the old, the single mothers' quarters. And so we stayed in the single mothers' quarters, and the single mothers' quarters was sort of smack in the middle, and I know this is ironic, of the girls' dormitory and the boys' dormitory. And sitting there one night and having a meal, and we could hear this roaring sound and this bright red light. And we knew straight away that it was the girls' dormitory that was going up in flames beside the single mothers' quarters where we were living. So we all jumped up from the table, we run outside, and then I stopped in shock, because it was actually happening, what we thought was happening, and that was this historical building was going up in flames. And so it suddenly dawned on me that my family had already run across the street into the park with all the other, the Cherbourg residents who were down there to see this big spectacle, And I thought about my mum, and I raced through the crowd, because she was stolen generation, and much of her life was spent growing up in this girls' dormitory. And when I run into the centre of the crowd, I found my mum standing there, arm around 4 of her other fellow dormitory girl friends, crying and sobbing. And I just dropped my arm and I said, "Mum, why are you crying? Why are you and your friends crying after the atrocious stories you told me about what happened in that building? And not just that building, but the one we were living in, the one beside the boys' dormitory, because if there was an icon of oppression, it was those 3 buildings." And I couldn't understand why she was doing this. Sadly, my mum passed away many years ago now, about 7, 8 years ago. And I never ever got to ask Mum why. So that'll always be in my mind now about why were they crying. So the point I want to make about with that question is, don't be afraid about the cultural practices and the protocols and the encounters with your Indigenous clients, because they are hard to read, and we have just as much difficulty as well And we want to encourage you to, to come on board and still travel on this journey with us. And like I said, collectively, we could make this difference in closing the gap.
Thank you, Floyd. Thank you very much for sharing your vision and also for sharing your history with us. That's such a moving story, and I think what you're talking about is a cultural literacy, and I hope that tonight will be take a step towards improving that for all of us. We know you've got a drive ahead of you, so thank you for making the time to be with us. And as a way to show how Goondir's vision is realised at the grassroots level, we're going to play some footage of the St George community.
St George is a fantastic place to live and work. We've got the mighty Blonde River behind us. It's the life source of the community. You can do all sorts of water activities like fishing, swimming, boating, skiing. It's just a fantastic part and a real life source of the community.
Knocked all around this part of Sandy Town, and I just love the community. It's a great community, black and white.
We welcome all the medical visitors and staff to come here for a wine tasting and food and to socialise, and we have a lot of groups here. Often on Friday afternoon after work, I sit in the garden and network and catch up and enjoy the atmosphere out here, sitting in the garden cafe, surrounded by the vines.
The staff I find here communicate very well. They always acknowledge me and they're very respectful. And that's one of the things that I really like, because you can go to other places and where they don't know you or anything, you're just another number. But here, it's family.
I would encourage registrars to experience working with Goondir. It's a great place to be immersed in Aboriginal medical practice. There's quite a lot of things to learn. There's quite a lot of things that are not usually seen in a regular medical clinic.
I became GP specialist here. I got my fellowship. I'm still looking after patients pursuing my dream. Working at Goondir, I get to spend more time with patients, not just treating symptoms. I can focus on individuals, their social, mental, physical, emotional well-being. I have established great relationships with patients and their families, and I'm able to work closely with the community for their health, for their well-being, which is very satisfying and rewarding.
St George is a wonderful place to live and work. You've got so many wonderful activities and things to do in the community. We have everything you need in St George that provides you with not only a good work life, but also a good home lifestyle. It's a very balanced way of living.
So that brings us into our first interactive discussion session, which we've titled Getting Comfortable with the Uncomfortable, because we know non-Indigenous health students, while they have a really strong interest in Indigenous health, our lived experience of interacting with Indigenous peoples is often constrained by knowledge gaps, just as Floyd was mentioned, and uncertainties regarding appropriate protocols. And that seems to further alienate us from closing this cultural divide. So tonight we're going to be joined by 3 Goondir clinic managers, as well as a dental student that's on placement. But we'd like to encourage you, the students, to participate in this session by using the chat function to ask questions or to raise your hand using the hand function at the bottom of your screen. And just to refer back to what Floyd said about it's okay not to understand our mob. And this is an invitation for you to ask the speakers questions that will better prepare you to work with and care for First Nations peoples. Kelvin, can I ask you please to start by introducing yourself and just briefly describe your role, and then if you could pass on the sort of the virtual message stick to the next speaker, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi all. I'd also like to acknowledge traditional owners of the lands that we all meet on today. There's many countries that we're covering and crossing today. I'm sitting in Toowoomba at the moment, so away from my hometown, but I'm happy to be able to join you from here. So my name's Kelvin Dyker. I'm the clinic manager at the St George Goondir Health Services. I've been with Goondir for about 15 years now, worked as an Aboriginal health worker and sort of worked my way through, had many different roles, and now find myself as clinic manager. It's a really good role to have. I really enjoy it. For my background, I'm Dutch on my father's side, hence the Dyker name. And on my mother's side, that's where I get my Aboriginality. So I'm a Baginji man from sort of far west corner country in New South Wales. So hopefully today we're able to answer any questions you have. We may be able to elaborate a little more on what Floyd's spoke about, and probably go into depth a little bit more about, even though we work towards a common goal, there still are different, I suppose, protocols and things on our different lands. So we have different ways of doing things than Dalby, Oki and that, and different sort of protocols that we've got on our lands. I'll hand the virtual message stick now over to either, I think Katrina and Marsha both sitting together in the Dalby clinic. So to either one of those guys.
Awesome, thanks, Kel. Hello, everyone. My name's Katrina Johnston. Salton is my maiden name, and I'm the clinic manager over at Oki, and I'm sitting with Marsh today in the Dalby clinic. I'm a little bit newer than Kel. I've been at Goondir for about 7 years now, and very much the same. Started off originally as an Aboriginal health worker, and moved then into chronic disease management, and then found myself offered a clinic manager role over at Oki, which is fantastic. And it's probably something that us as Goondir is very proud of, is that grow your own from community. Let's start from, not from the bottom, but, we find that, there's definitely places where you can aim to go in Goondir, which is fantastic. I'm originally from Central Queensland. Theodore's my hometown. So I'm Woolly and Waka Waka tribes, and have found myself moving this way for work and for my children. So it's probably one of the best things that I ever did is to move and work in this space. Started off in aged care, and then once we moved this way, found myself, in Aboriginal health, and it's probably one that I'm very, very passionate about, and I'm happy to be here today and just be able to answer any questions. So don't be shy. Ask us. Like Kelv said, we may have the answers, we may not, but we don't learn anything unless we ask. So very happy to be here. And Marsha.
Hi, so my name's Marsha Dodd. So I'm the clinic manager at our Dalby site. I've been with Goondir for 12 years now. So I started off here doing finance, and then I got offered a traineeship as an Aboriginal health worker. Then I've just sort of worked my way up to Aboriginal health practitioner, and now clinic manager. So Katrina's my big cousin, so I'm from Theodore as well. So Woolly and Waka Waka. And yeah, like Katrina, I'm very passionate about being in Aboriginal health. So any questions you have, happy to answer. Yep.
Right. Thanks, guys.
No, that's all right.
And Eddie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you for inviting me today. I'm Eddie. I'm one of the 5th-year dental students in St. George Goondir Dental Clinic. So if I've started my placement around start of August, So compared to other people here, I haven't had that much experience with the Indigenous people. But for the students who have questions in regards to the student perspective, feel free to ask questions. I'll be happy to answer.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eddie. Okay, so just a shout out to all the students. Please put a question, your questions into the chat or raise your hand. Ev, can I ask you to help me out because I can't see all these students to know if they've got a hand raised. Thank you. But maybe we could start off with the clinic managers in terms of, because you've all been with Goondir for a long time, but I think you all share the commonality of being starting off as an Aboriginal health worker. And I think it would be great to hear about why that role was so important within an Indigenous health service. Who would like to answer that question?
I'll go. Marsha's just put me in for this one. So I think working in AMS, your Aboriginal health workers and Aboriginal health practitioners, they're the middle, they're the meat and the sandwich of everything. They're your go-to to the doctors. They know community. So like we said, we try to grow our own here. So we have come from community. We know, like, these are our families, our friends, that we're looking after. So we've kind of got that. It's a bit of insider knowledge, to be honest. We can do a screening and all the rest of it, and it's, a quick chat to the doctor or anyone. It's just like, hey, yeah, blood pressure's up, but maybe it's A, B, and C, kids are playing up a bit, or, hubby's done this, or, there's just, like we said, there's that insider information that we have, that we're privy to, that probably in a lot of mainstream services that you just don't have. So that's probably one of the big things that we find, is that we really are that middle person that can get a lot more information and be able, because community, but then again, it can be a double-edged sword too sometimes, is yes, we can be told a lot, but then sometimes we don't want to. Patients may not want to tell us because we're so, tightly knit in community. And I guess that's something that we navigate on a daily basis. If there's things going on in community, we're aware, and we can shift and move patients and clients to, just to make sure that they're comfortable when we know, especially around sorry business, or, if there's some conflict in community, which happens, like, regardless of, if you're Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or not, there's always something going on somewhere. So to have that, we can be able to, shift and maneuver as we go.
I was going to say, pretty much as Katrina said, we probably know things about our clients we should know, and probably things we shouldn't either, but it all helps in the end. Especially when we're doing things, it was real evident with our new virtual health service stuff that we've done, and just being able to do some case conferencing. And we were sitting in them with another GP of ours at Goondir, Dr. Vlad, and he was blown away by some of the stuff that we actually knew about our clients firsthand. And that's the real beauty of Aboriginal health workers. And I encourage anyone that's going into the health field, whether you're a doctor, dentist, allied health, if you are an Aboriginal medical service, to go to the Aboriginal health workers. Because if you're having trouble engaging with clients, they're probably your best point of call. I'd go to them first.
So first question, if I do not identify as an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, how will the community accept me, and how do I best engage with them to understand cultural protocols? What if I make a mistake and end up offending someone but don't know I have?
So I guess for that question, and that's from Andrew, is it?
Yes, it is.
It's to engage. So in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander medical services, it's super community involved. So if there's events like NAIDOC or any of these kind of events, we really do encourage our GPs and our allied health to come along to these kind of events, because this is where it's not in a room at a consult. You're out in community, like communities see you wanting to be involved in days and significant days that are very, very special to us. So I believe that that's where you gain a lot of trust, is when you are seen out in community. It's even like a footy game, like, you know, the doctors can, and the GPs or anyone, walk around and, you know, they see you getting involved in community, then that's, I feel, where the engagement starts. I guess the other thing is, we all make mistakes. Us as Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people still can make those mistakes. So I think the biggest thing is just owning that mistake, and then, you know, and then moving on and asking, you know, if it's not your clinic manager or your health worker, it's if you acknowledge and move on and try and find a solution from there, I think that's the best way.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's a really good point Katrina said, is about just coming along and supporting Indigenous events, especially like NAIDOC. We still get it in community at St George, where we have non-Indigenous people thinking that it's just for an Indigenous sort of event, but no, and NAIDOC's for a whole of community. So I encourage anyone to go to any NAIDOC events in their local areas. I know a lot of people that celebrate St Pat's Day that aren't Irish, so come along and join in NAIDOC. It's a good way to actually learn a lot about the local area you're in.
Thanks, Kelvin. We've got quite a lot of questions coming through. Marsha, this might be a good one for you. Cultural safety is super important for healthcare, but I'm having a bit of trouble with it because none of the textbooks list any concrete actions to be culturally safe. So what behaviours would you recommend?
Respect's probably your biggest one for starters. Like Calvin was saying earlier, different areas have different cultural beliefs and, you know, stories and stuff like that. So, I mean, I can't answer for everybody in every different tribe, but with me, it probably would be your respect thing to start off with. Definitely your women's and men's business would be a big one. And just to make the client feel comfortable. Yeah, it's different. Like it's a hard one. It's definitely a hard one. But your biggest thing would be men's and women's business and respect for the client.
And I guess sort of the capacity to listen.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks, Marsha. That's great. Now, there's a question here from Georgia. What's the best way to make the most out of rural work? Thinking of skills and knowledge that might transfer over when in other locations, that is a big hospital in the city and other rural communities.
I guess rural work is like, it's a holistic approach to health that we have. So it's not like you're an ER, you fix them, send them on to where you got to go or things like that. So I believe the skills that you would make and do take out of working in a rural place, like we said, it's holistic. It's from housing to health. And everything in between it. So to be able to take that back into a bigger place, I think is probably invaluable, to be completely honest, because like we said, you work in like we have, you know, up to 20 minutes to 40-minute consultations. Like I know in some places, you know, it's 10 minutes in and out. I'm going to give you a script and I'm going to put you on your way. Within our service, every client gets a screening as well from the Aboriginal health worker or RNs, and we can spend up to 20 to 40 minutes with a patient as well. So, you know, it's the information that you get and the experience that you get from that, you get to learn and know these issues. And like we said, it could be they come in for a sore toe, but at the end of the day, you might be referring on for so many different other things. This down to our social emotional wellbeing team, then it's, you know, we're going to generate some referrals to our allied health team. And, you know, it's the things that you could do in one consult in 40 minutes, you could probably, you know, it may take you months to be able to do any of those things in a bigger place.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I feel when it comes to skills and knowledge as well, I've heard a lot of our GPs that come out to St George. That's one thing that they like, because you're in that rural area. You're going to have to do things that you probably wouldn't do when you're in a more of an urban setting. And that's just because there's no one else to do it. So you're going to have to learn those skills, learn new things and new ways of doing things. In a rural sort of setting, St George is a smaller town, but we still have surgery and theatre out there. So there's opportunity for any GPs that are going out there to even learn that trade. So I feel in the rural areas you may learn just as much, if not more, than when you would in a city.
Mm. And a question from Hannah, which is brings up an important subject of mental health. She says, "Hi everyone, thanks for sharing your stories with us. I'm a psychology student and was wondering if there are any roles that suit a psychology bachelor or graduate diploma graduate, and if so, what would these look like?" And she's also added another question: "Are there any extra training or any courses you would suggest for this related to Aboriginal health, or is it mainly on the job training?"
We will never say no to any psychology. So sling your resume through, Hannah. No, look, we screen for it, don't we? Like, it's probably one of the most underutilized, or not utilized, it's probably one that we struggle to find. And on-site ones as well. Like, we talk a lot about, like, in this day and age, and like we're doing today, like we're zooming in and Teams meetings and all that, and we do have a lot of services that we do use that are fantastic, but the face-to-face stuff is something that we lack. So to be able to have someone on site that we could utilize within all 3 clinics, plus the, you know, the mobile medical stuff that we do as well. So yeah, definitely I think there's a huge need in Aboriginal medical services for psychology, psychiatry, and everything in between. On the job training, without a doubt, is probably one of the most invaluable ones that you'll ever learn. But there's lots of Aboriginal training facilities. So there's a place in Brisbane called Galang Place, and this is where one of our Aboriginal, she started off in reception, went to Aboriginal health worker, Aboriginal health practitioner, and now she's a fully qualified counsellor, Helen. And these guys, they're probably one of the best training facilities going around. So yeah, Galang Place, and they are an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander school, I guess, like training facility.
Yeah, training provider.
But I would definitely, like, I would have a look at those guys and see what they have to offer as well. Definitely.
They'd definitely be able to point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And with a lot of our clients, like Indigenous people, they prefer face-to-face, especially with psychology. Like Trent was saying, over probably the last year or so, since COVID's kicked in and, you know, it's ramped up a bit, we've lost a lot of our face-to-face ones. So it's more like this now. And our allied health coordinator, Deb, she's just finding that our clients are just not engaging that way. So definitely prefer face-to-face.
Thank you. Is it okay if I unmute and say something, Meredith? Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks so much for that. I was wondering, because I know generally to get registration as a psychologist, I'd need to go through a master's degree and then apply for registration. So I was trying to find out, like I did a little research online, but it's very hard to find with like job descriptions and things like that, if there is any sort of roles where I could go while I still finish those studies, if that makes sense. Like, do I need full registration, or is there other roles that, you know, I could go and get some, because I think experience is so important if that makes sense.
I probably don't have the answer for you, but more than happy to kind of have a look into it around like what we do around here. I'm not sure, Kelvin, you're in the same.
I was going to say, we currently have a social emotional wellbeing position available in St. George.
That's great.
Through your resume. No. Yeah, and I guess if you're studying psychology, definitely within that field, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel you would be able to walk into that position and provide the knowledge that you already have to our clients while you're still gaining your psychology degree. So, yeah.
And we have your contact details, Hannah. So we I think this is one of those we could put our thinking caps on and get back to you with some support.
Is there any opportunity to do a clinical placement?
Yeah, we have like UQ first year students come through. I think we've got a pretty good partnership with these guys.
Yeah, so we run through like a heap of fourth year students. So that's been for the past 2 years, and we'll run another, I think they're looking at 6 next year.
Sherilyn, did you want to add something?
Just wanted to link in the fact that we have a psychologist that works for Southern Queensland Rural Health, Michelle. I'd be more than happy to, I'm sure you may have Michelle's details, Meredith, but I could potentially link Hannah in with Michelle to help her with that, because she's probably one of the best people to speak to in regards to that.
Great.
Would be awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and that is a big area in our field, all that social emotional wellbeing, and that there's still a lot of our clients in living memory that were from stolen generation. Then there's a generational and intergenerational trauma that's still going on. For a small community, we have a lot of suicide ideation and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of loss and grief. There's so much in the communities, and it's a big part of what we do is trying to get everyone's mindset right as well, not just treat your body. The mind's a big part of that. So yes.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. We'll just finish on this final question. We haven't been able to get to everybody's questions, but some of them please carry over to your next sessions. And we've also got a final session with Health Workforce Queensland representatives who may also be able to answer your questions. So final question. Hello, thanks for sharing with us today. I'm a medical student. What are current attitudes of the Indigenous community towards Western medicine and healthcare students, professionals? Is it positive or cautious? Thank you.
Definitely, and I guess this is something that Goondir does quite well, and it's even within our kind of screening templates and tools, is around ensuring that we are still looking at like the bush medicines as well, and having a look at what we're using there and what the Western, medicines and healthcare as well. I think it's just because we work in an AMS, it's a lot easier, or it makes our patients and clients feel a lot more comfortable coming in, where we can deliver both the always and owning it, and just acknowledging that still happens and people still use that. So what's the other question? Healthcare students. I think we've got a very open community. Like they know that, we're probably one of the most caring and open kind of peoples out there. Like, the doors, and that's the way we've all been raised, is that, and we welcome people that are coming in that want to actually help. I'll tell you what, they'll know if you're real or if you're not pretty hard. If they think you're just there and and don't really care. And it's the same for GPs. Like we can, and anyone that's locums that are coming in, they'll know you from the minute you walk through the door. Like, if they think you're here for the right reasons or not. But generally, I think very open. You know, we have a policy that, you know, we ensure that our patients and clients know that there's med students or on the, you know, someone that's there. So it's not like this big shock that there's some random just sitting in the room in a corner.
They've got the option to opt out.
That's exactly
so
right.
Like if they don't want that student in that room, they can say no. And the student respects that 100%. And then the other question that Trim forgot was we've got a pharmacist on site now.
Oh, yes, that's
yeah.
right.
So Emily's our pharmacist, so she does some home medication reviews and stuff like that. Lots of clients tap into within the clinic as well. So she's made a good rapport with our patients. So a lot of them really, yeah, they really have a good yarn to Emily and have all their questions, they go straight to her. So yeah, so she does all 3 sites. So.
Thanks, everyone. That's such a great discussion. I think we could probably have used up the whole of our time talking with you all, but appreciate your time tonight. And please stay on. You know, I'm sure there'll be other areas where you can contribute if you so wish. So at this point, we're going to, our next 2 sessions will take place in breakout rooms.
I used like a tiny fraction of what I learned in medical school when I was working in the hospital, but I use every little bit every day, and you don't ever leave work like your brain is just stretched. And when I talk to GPs, like my supervisor has been a GP for nearly 40 years, and she says even now her brain still gets stretched every day working in country general practice. So I think that's something that's unique.
Okay, well, I see that we have one question regarding medical placements from Adib. Hopefully he's joined. Yes, he has, or she, I should say. Hi, everyone. There aren't many rural placements open for medical students right now. Do you think this will start opening up over the next couple of years, or will they stay this way? Thanks so much. Who would like to answer that one? Who thinks that there might be more opportunities?
Adib, I just have a question. Are you, because I know that in medical schools, 25% people have to go and have, I think it's 4 to 8 weeks rural. I think in medical school, I know certainly in my medical school, which we had about 400 students every year, a lot of people couldn't go rural because once the quota was filled, they couldn't go. I know certainly we're about to have some medical students where we are. We only get some, is it first years we get, Kelvin? Yeah, he's saying yes.
Yeah, first year.
So yeah, I don't know. Nin might be able to answer more on that one.
So at the moment, we have first year medical student. When I was studying at Bond University, there were a few programs for rural. I actually didn't have a chance to join because it is like limited placement. I'm not quite sure regarding the placement arrangement at the moment. There are a few 4th year students placements and then first year students placements. So I think Kelvin might know more.
I was going to say.
Sorry, Gary. I was just going to say at Goondir we have a service planning manager, so they do most of this stuff is setting up student placements and things like that. So in St George itself, it's been a very long time since we've had any medical students out there doing placement. And what Gary and Nin referred to is we are getting 2 in the end of November, start of December, but that's only going to be a 2-week placement. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say one of the things as well, there's the John Flynn placement program. I don't know, and often the issue with a lot of rural things is they're not as open to international students as they are to domestic students. So that was a barrier for a lot of my friends in medical school. But the John Flynn placement program is really good. And the other thing that I would suggest is often you can kind of choose your general placement practice placements, for example. So I went to Catherine in the Northern Territory for 6 months in my 3rd year. But if I had stayed with my university in Victoria, I would have been in, like, I don't know, the city or something. So you can kind of look for opportunities to push yourself in that direction.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Can
Dib, I
I
hope that
just
answered your
add?
question. Yep, sorry, Anin, what would you like to say?
So we did this, Calvin was talking about the placement, 2 weeks placement for, I think, first year medical students. There's also some placement at the hospital, St. George Hospital. And there's, I think, probably at the medical center, I think more for the 4th year. And I think with the service planning, there might be some other options regarding first year or 4th year, maybe later.
Great.
For us.
Yeah, so Nin, as a registrar, you went through the AGPT training pathway, is that correct? And you got your fellowship through that process?
Yes.
That's the pathway you decided to go as a general practitioner. How did you find that process?
So to be honest, I was going to be on the obstetrician program. So I actually signed everything with the Royal Brisbane Hospital. And then I was like, oh, I really love the town. I really love the experience in rural areas. So I wanted to go back to St. George. So I actually didn't understand at first with the programs and everything. So I just joined when they offered me a place, I just joined it. And then it was with the AGPT. So they actually have like rural pathway and then metro sort of pathway. Initially, I didn't understand that. I thought, oh, I'm going to be here for 1 year and then I'll go back to my family in Brisbane. And I joined the rural pathway. And then after a year, I really wanted to stay and I talked to my family, but I actually couldn't go back to Brisbane because like on the rural pathway, you have to be on rural for the whole training.
Yeah.
But I had so much experience in terms of the training program because you have to do I was fortunate that I was doing all the looking after patients at the medical center and then private patients at the hospital and then private emergency patients, aged care, on-call, Saturday clinic. So there's a wide range of varieties. So depending on where you go with the AGPT, you can choose what you want to learn and what experience you want to gain.
Excellent. And I'm just going to leave it open. Do any of the students or any of the people on here want to ask any questions of the GPs that they haven't been able to ask yet? So this is the opportunity. It's an excellent time. You've got them here. But yeah, feel free, please, to ask, put your hand up for a question, or if you'd like to put it in the question box as well, feel free.
Yeah, I've got a question. So hi, I'm Kate. I'm a medical student. I'm currently on the Gold Coast, and in my 3rd year next year, I'll be moving out to work, which I'm actually very excited for. And I'm looking to potentially do some volunteer work at the Aboriginal Medical Centre there, and would definitely like to work with Aboriginal people in the future. I particularly really respect the First Nations way of looking at wellbeing. I think it's a much better way of looking at it. I kind of wish we all did that. But I guess my question is, I'm very mindful of my presence as a white person, and like I want to know how appropriate it is for white people to be working in those services, or particularly non-Indigenous people, but especially given the history and everything, you know, and obviously it's better if you can have your own community, I'm imagining.
Look, I'm not white, so I don't know what that's like, but nearly everyone I went to medical school was. And I mean, so if we look at Aboriginal health as a whole, it's actually impossible. Like I think we're 3 or 4% of the population. While we do have population parity in medical schools, we don't actually have, we don't have that in the doctor community. And I don't think it's actually possible for us to do it alone. I don't think that's what we're aiming for either. I think most Aboriginal people don't really care where you're from. They, you know, we're very, very open, and most of our families are very mixed race anyway. I think the fact that you're mindful that you, just the fact that you're mindful that you're going into a space where you, there might be historical things, actually says a lot about yourself in the first place. Nin might have a good perspective on it because obviously, like, she's Burmese and she's been working with the community for a long time.
Yes. So obviously, I'm Burmese and I I look Asian, and when when there's no barriers at all. Like I'm well accepted and well loved by the whole team, like the St. George Goondir team, St. George, the whole community. I think the main thing is if you actually show, like some when you start at the clinic, you might find like, okay, there might be some people who doesn't come to the clinic well very often and things like that, and when you get to know them, they actually, like, you just have to be patient and then let them know, like show your care, and it's all like holistic sort of thing. And sometimes they might be scared that they don't want to come because they might not understand that they have their medical condition. It's really important to be looked after, or they don't understand the extent of the medical condition and things like that. So if you give time and get to know them, explain them, they actually really like appreciative. And I'm just talking about the patients. So not just the patients, the community, the staff member, everyone, like you just show your care, and you don't need to worry about like your appearance and anything. That's how I feel. I'm very lucky, and I feel like everyone accept me here and love me here. I love the community.
Yeah, I think Katrina summed it up pretty well in that last session where she said that mob are very good at calling someone out who's not genuine. So if you go in with your open mindset like you've got, definitely be accepted. So it's the ones that don't have the caring nature and they come into community and talk down. That's when you have barriers with clients. But if you've got an open mind and you really want to work in community, I think you'll find you'll have no barriers and you'll be accepted fairly well in the community.
I have a funny story about my friend. Her name's Erica. She was a couple of years above me when I was up in Mount Isa, and her last name is West, but she was marrying someone with the last name White, and she's a white girl. And she said to me, she was getting married, she's like, I can't change my last name to White. I'm already white working in Aboriginal medical service. And I just said to her, like, you're there. Like, you're there. People are just happy to have a doctor, to be honest. You know, if you're there and you treat them with respect and you listen twice as much as you talk, which I don't really do, but then you will, you'll do well. You'll be fine.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to put their hand up? Please jump on while we're using the time.
There's a really good question in the question box that I think someone named Ellie asked.
Okay, yep.
Nim might be a good person to take that one.
Now, Ellie, the question is, how do you separate your personal and professional life living in such a tight-knit communities? That's a good question. Nin, would you like to answer that one?
Yes, so I actually don't find, well, there might be some people, like there might be like, you know, when you go to the grocery store and then there will be corridors sort of, you know, consult and things like that. But it's very, very rare though. Like I find it like people respect that mostly like in the community. I think there is so much respect that you don't actually like, I don't know how I should put it, like not much of that. And then I don't usually go out much, so I don't actually find any sort of conflicts. So I'm not actually the right person to answer that. But I think even like in the consults, like you know them about, like Calvin said before, it's everyone knows everyone, so you're just not just looking after their medical conditions, it's all like about their background conditions, social life. So it's actually, for me, easier to support them medically and socially and mentally, emotionally, everything. So there's actually even better in terms of looking after them. That's how I see it.
I do think there are challenges, and I think you do kind of change your behavior. When I worked in Mount Isa, which is where I've worked the most, it's about 20,000 people. So I kind of, if someone didn't say hello to me, like I wouldn't say hello to them. That was kind of how I operated before St. George. But then I quickly got here and I was like, well, that's not going to work, because like I go to the supermarket and sometimes the whole shop is full of people that we look after. Like, and I mean, you do change your behaviors. So like, I don't know, I probably only have 2 drinks instead of 4 when I go to the pub. Like I do change things, and I am a bit more mindful that what I do in the community may be like, I don't know, you may be under a little bit more scrutiny, but generally it's not that bad. And if someone does ask you something, like this girl yesterday, it's like, what my blood test at the checkout at the IGA, and I was like, maybe come make an appointment and we'll talk about it. But I would say generally people are pretty appropriate, and you just have to put up boundaries. But it is tricky.
Okay, thanks for that. We've got another question from Sumi. Sumi, did you want to ask the question, or I'm happy to read it out? It's up to you. Feel free to jump on. Hi, everyone. What kind of resources are available for non-Aboriginal Indigenous people to be better equipped for the workplace health setting with Aboriginal Indigenous people? Are there culturally sensitive training workshops in place accessible to everyone, especially for GPs?
Yes, there are online ones. Mainly, I think there are a lot of online training, and then also face-to-face workshops. So if you are not on a GP training, I think everyone's medical student or doctors as well.
Yeah, well, this is most people, yeah.
Yeah. So if depending on the resources, so there are some, I can't remember the website. So if you search for the cultural training online courses, but some of them you might need face-to-face as well, like 2-3 days or things like that. And they have scenarios that you can discuss to each other with the face-to-face one, or the online one, like again, like with scenarios, and then teaching on top of that. So very good.
Hey, can everyone hear me?
Yes, Sumi.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I'm actually not a medicine student yet, but I've applied. So I was just wondering how to better prepare myself at this stage. So are those training/workshops available to me as well? Or is it just doctors?
What I would suggest, I don't know about those training workshops, what I would suggest is every university has a rural health club, usually funded by Rural Health someone. It's not these guys, it's someone else, I think. And so in those, there's usually an Indigenous portfolio. The university that you go to may also have an Indigenous health club. They often run events that are subsidised or free to upskill mostly non-Indigenous people in Indigenous health, or get more exposure. At your level, I probably, there's things you can do to educate yourself, which is, good books like Stan Grant, Talking to My Country. There's the First Australians, which is a fantastic documentary series on SBS, which I think is 6 parts. There's a lot of things you can do to kind of expand your knowledge of history and its impacts, and then also the way that current ways of thinking as well. That's what I would recommend to someone at your stage, probably.
Yeah, thank you so much. What did you say the name of the author was for Talking to My Country?
I'll post it in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much.
There's also different organisations that do cultural awareness training. There's different companies that deliver it. You can just get on and Google cultural awareness and find out different ones that do it. There is a lot out there. Places like Queensland Health, they have cultural awareness trainers within the organisation. At Goondir, we're wanting to, like, we do an induction for all staff, so it's not just for GPs, it's anyone, and even we're wanting to do our cultural awareness specific to our area, because I said earlier that there are different protocols and different things. What separates St George from a lot of other areas is we don't have an actual recognised one traditional owner. So it's very broad. You've got to keep it very broad. You can't just say, I acknowledge the Kamilaroi people, because traditionally they don't have the land rights to that land legally. So there's just little things like that, that if you go to a community, the best thing to do is find out the elders in that community, or go to an Aboriginal organisation and just ask the questions. But I dare say when you do get to a community or something, you will find that they will have some sort of cultural awareness for that community.
Okay, so do we have anyone else that would like to ask a question? We've just got a few minutes to go now. So please feel free, this is the time. You have some excellent sources of information and resources to tap into.
I guess if no one else has any more questions, this is a very broad question, but I'm particularly interested in mental health. Is there any, obviously there's more, as you mentioned, someone mentioned there's more mental health issues, but is there anything in particular to be mindful of in that area, or that's different? I don't think so, but yeah. Also, thank you very much to everyone. This has been a really insightful session.
So who would like to answer that question? Gary, would you like to answer that one?
I think mental health is huge. I wish I had more training of mental health before I come here. Most of my training is in acute medicine and not in mental health. Haven't done any psych since my my studies, basically. I think mental health is huge because trauma is huge, and most poor health, like poor mental health, underlies a lot of poor health. So I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. It's really hard for people to look after themselves physically if they're not well mentally, and that's something that I'm often surprised by. Nin probably has more to add to that.
Yes, so in our community, like mostly in Indigenous community, mental health is a big issue. So all that, like starting from like depression, anxiety, suicidal, addiction, everything, like most people blame on, addiction, they see as addiction. It's actually their mental health that are causing it. So it will be very useful if you like learn about all these, so that very useful to help with the community, because it's a very huge important part.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. We've run out of time just at this moment. So if you'd like to leave the breakout room, and we'll go back to the main session now.
Yeah. So at that point of time, I did apparently live in Roma. I saw my house occasionally 2 days a month, and then roamed around in circles. I was in a car, a plane, a truck, but absolutely enjoyed it. I serviced every single community in Western Queensland and really enjoyed myself. At that point of time in my career, I did work out of St. George, Goondir, and serviced that town for the time that I was living out there, so about the 5 years. I then decided to pick up sticks and create my own company, and that's where Better Movement Clinic came from. I moved into Toowoomba to set this business up. However, right now we have over 30 clinicians that roam around Western Queensland. We have a mobile health clinic that runs around the Darling Downs and Southwest Queensland. And we also have, we have podiatry, physiotherapy, exercise physiology, dietetics, exercise science and allied health assistants, and remedial massage therapists as well. So I have my Toowoomba clinic based here. I also have my Dalby clinic based out in Dalby, where we service the Dalby Goondir on about 3 days a week. One of my clinicians is inside Goondir, whereas I have serviced Goondir for that time period as well. So I've been working as the exercise physiologist inside the Oakey and the Dalby clinics for about 8 years now. And so they're very much sick of my face. And have been there for that length of time. But now we've grown to being, from being me as the exercise physiologist to over 30 clinicians roaming around from Toowoomba all the way up to the border.
That would have massively improved your people skills, John.
Look, I've got some amazing stories of being the only person standing inside the Birdsville Hospital while someone's having a stroke, all the way through to jumping off the plane and the nurse going, "This is a brand new type 2 diabetic, recently diagnosed. Go with it." By the way, the doctor's on the phone, so you can figure it out as we go. Not to scare anybody, but it is that your scope is definitely, it's never a quiet day on the job, and it's always your scope will be stretched to the nth degree once you're comfortable and supported.
Thanks, John. And Dylan, I guess it must feel quite amazing that John still has time to supervise you.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think I remember, like, what was it, our first outreach trip at the mobile health clinic, and I'd been in Toowoomba for about a week, and we got to go out and I got to hear those stories of what rural health means, and it's certainly been exciting to then spend the last 9 months or so actually experiencing that for myself and really understanding, you know, what it means and how different it can be to work in the city, and really getting to know those communities, because that's probably the most exciting bit, is they really do welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, and I think this might be a good point to segue over to you, Dale, and it's, you know, have a bit of a hear from you about your thoughts about a community-based service and, you know, why it's important, how it works.
Thanks, Meredith. Look, as John said, you get these amazing experiences working in small rural communities with either Aboriginal medical services or with other local community-based services. And I guess it's those community-based services that are just the perfect example of primary healthcare in action. These services are, they're working with right there at the interface with the community and health services. They provide the breadth of health services that people need, and that's either directly, as John said, sometimes the clinician that you need may not be quite there. That person might be on their way. They might be in another town, and you can telehealth in to receive the care that you need from that person. So these community-based services are really meeting the broad need, the broad health needs of the communities in our rural and remote areas in Queensland. There's you know, huge disparities in health. Floyd alluded to that this morning, and particularly within our First Nations communities, we're so far behind the mark in meeting the health needs for these people. And it's these primary healthcare services across all disciplines that are really starting to work with our local communities to help them to improve their health and well-being. Yeah. Oops, sorry, you're on mute, Meredith.
Just sorry, Dal.
That's all right.
How would you define primary healthcare for somebody that went, I think I know what it is, but actually I don't know what it is?
Okay, look, primary healthcare are those services that are they're not acute. You know, they're the bridge. They're the bridge with the acute care setting. They are meeting there's, I'm getting tongue-tied. There's services delivered outside a hospital setting, I suppose, is probably just in a nutshell. That's probably a very basic level description, but they cover a broad range from general practitioners through nursing, midwifery, and all of the allied health services as well. There's you know, many disciplines who provide primary health care out of hospital settings in communities.
Thanks, Dal. That's great. To the audience, please put any questions that you have into the chat box. You know, because this is your, you know, this Go Rural Virtually Goondir is for you. So please feel free to ask any questions. Linda Lee, I think this would be a good opportunity for you to sort of base this in a kind of what happened for you today at work question. So to kind of, you know, we've been talking in general terms, but let's talk about how it looks specifically on the ground.
So I've got my appointment book open in front of me, and I'll just do a little run through, you know, and it's so wonderful when I'm looking at my appointment book and I see this first patient. So a 50-year-old Indigenous woman who's schizophrenic, who came in for her paliperidone injection, you know, and over the years, over the last 5 years, this woman has moved out of her family home. She's now living independently. She's got NDIS support. She looks healthy. She feels well. She goes to goes to lots of support programs, and she's just a really, really happy woman. Whereas when I first, I'm not saying it's because of me, but when I first arrived, she was not in a very good place, and I'm so happy for her. Anyway, so I gave her a paliperidone. We had a yak. She just looked beautiful. I said she had this amazing lime-coloured pants on with this beautiful shirt, and I said to her, you know, God, you look bloody beautiful. Where did you get that from, you know? Anyway, she got the pants from Vinnie's or something or other and got the shirt from somewhere else. And she's double vaxxed. So then we moved on to a man I'd never met before, and I'm the maternal and child health nurse, you know, 0 to 5-year-olds. But anyway, a 48-year-old man who, with hypertension and diabetes, who's only just moved to town. He actually was about 3 years ago not on any medication. He'd lost a lot of weight, etc., and his HbA1cs were really, really good. Anyway, but he'd sort of like fallen off the wagon there, and so his blood pressure was up and his blood sugar was 17 or something or other. Anyway, and he hadn't been vaccinated. You know, it's just so important for us every time we see someone to be having the COVID conversation. So he hadn't been vaccinated, and we had the conversation. We've got another super clinic here next week for 4 days. Anyway, so he hooked off and saw the doctor, and he's booked in for a full health check next week. So he's having his baseline bloods and stuff done. So that's him. And then I saw this 26-year-old woman who I screened, who, poor bugger, like her social and emotional well-being not good. It's been like that for a while, but hopefully she's going to have a mental health care plan done with our social and emotional well-being person and the doctor next week. And then I waited for this antenate to come, and she didn't come, and I went, oh bugger. And then back to that first one, the 26-year-old who hopefully is going to have a mental health care plan next week. She's not going to be vaccinated against COVID at this stage. And then I saw a 7-month-old little kiddly diddly who's this woman's 6th child who came in for immunisations. Make my day. So when you're 7 months old, fortunately you only have 2 needles when you're a Indigenous baby. And see, I've got this distraction for, I stab them and then I go. Anyway, we do a little dance and blah, blah, blah. And his mum is having her 2nd COVID next week. And then I saw a 6-year-old boy who came in crying because he thought I was going to give him vaccinations, whereas in fact we did a opportunistic health check where he gets referred to, he's getting referred to an OT and to a speechy because he's got some separation anxiety and speech issues. And then I stabbed his 18-month-old sister, whose first name I could say because I love it, Octavia. Anyway, she was one of those fortunate children to need 4 needles. Am I going too fast for anyone? So anyway, then, and her mum, was her mum getting vaccinated? Oh, I think I was too distressed. I don't know if we had the conversation. Anyway, then this is so, then I had a phone consult with a 21-year-old woman who's had 5 miscarriages and who is pregnant again and who is a really poorly controlled type 2 diabetic. And I'm obviously not getting the message through about, come on, darling, let's try and rest your body so that we can hope, you know, try and get on top of this diabetes, because, you know, the chances of you achieving a viable pregnancy are so poor. Anyway, and then I had another kid who I did a health check on. He was 4 years and 6 months of age. I did his brother's vaccinations yesterday and he told me that he was crying. And anyway, it goes on like that. In between all of this, you know, there were phone calls, there were having to go and see the doctor to make sure that the doctor read my notes so that they could actually do the referrals, having a bit of fun. It really is a great place to work. And the Goondir team, the Aboriginal health practitioners and the Aboriginal health workers in training and the doctors and our social and emotional wellbeing counsellor, I think that we are a really good team and work well together.
Thank you, Linda Lee. And it's such a, you know, Dale's posted in the chat, you know, like she said, so typical of primary care and so typical of primary health in rural areas. Everything and anything can walk through the door. You take every opportunity to have real conversations with your clients, patients, to listen and truly hear their problems and support them to work through their health problems. So thank you for sharing your part of your day with us. I'd like to, we've only got 6 minutes remaining of this session, and I just want to bring in Sherilyn at this point. Sherilyn, can you just perhaps give the students a bit of an overview of the realities of rural placements? We know that certainly nursing, midwifery and allied health students are very keen to go in rural placement, but if you could just perhaps give us an overview of the realities of that I think would be very helpful. Thank you.
That's okay. And Dale and John probably will be able to add more onto this because my sort of experience level is trying to work with the universities to find the right fit for the students in these rural communities and in the rural settings. So basically it starts with, it's really important that students show an interest in rural. If you're not showing that interest and that keenness to want to come rural, there's a bit of a reluctance, I guess, from clinicians within those rural settings as well, that if you have bad experiences with students, that can sometimes tarnish things. If you come out and you're really not interested in primary health, in rural care settings, you're not going to have an engaging experience. Whereas if you want to learn about this and truly do, speak with your placement coordinator at the universities, speak with the facilities and reach out to them, speak to the providers in the communities where you're interested in going and try and link in with that. Phone somebody like me, for example, that can link you in with the clinicians like Dale or John and can try and organise placements suitable for your discipline. Remembering that it's not just about going, if you're a nursing student, it's not just about going and learning all about nursing. It's also about engaging with the other clinicians in that setting for you. So remembering that you are an interprofessional team, that is what we're there for. We are there, we do these placements, and that is, for example, Goondir is a perfect example of it. SQRH, which Southern Queensland Rural Health, who Dale and myself and Kirsten also work for, we're there to try and connect all these professions together. As Linda said, she has to still go and speak to the doctors in regards to things. That is what we're there for. We're all treated as equal when speaking to other clinicians. If you have a concern as an exercise physiologist in regards to something, you go and seek advice from an OT or a physio, wherever that may lead, linking services in together. So I think it's really important to remember when you're wanting to undertake a placement, asking yourself why and what are the areas you really want to go to and linking in with the right people. And that's, for example, what Southern Queensland Rural Health does. So that, from my point of view, Dale probably will be able to add the clinical side of that on for me. But from my point of view, it is really important to link in with services like SQRH and Health Workforce Queensland, those services that are out there for you.
Yeah, and I think I might ask Wendy just to provide the students with a bit of an overview of going rural and what that offers the students, and then we'll come back to you, Sherilyn, and you can maybe give us a bit of an update of what's happening next year. Wendy, over to you.
Thanks, Meredith. Yeah, so Going Rural offers anybody looking at doing a rural placement a little bit of financial help up to the value of about $1,000 to help you out with your transport, your accommodation. As all the feedback we're getting is, how tough it is, especially when you can't do your part-time jobs when you're away on placement. So yeah, if you want any further information, and we'd love to be able to help you out if we can, just go to our website and have a look, and yeah, hopefully we can help get you across the line.
Thanks, Wendy. We've got 1 minute, Sherilyn.
Quickly, I'll jump in and just say, so next year, what we're working towards is extended rural placements and end-to-end placements as well. So we're working closely with some of the universities. Obviously, not all disciplines do long-term placements, and that's because the clinical hours required are only, they're a smaller number. So what we're working towards specifically for nursing and some of the allied health professions is 8+ week placements. So that's very exciting. It gives students more of an engaging experience within the community and also allows them to embed themselves within the community and the teams that they're working with.
Great. And what we'll do is we'll share links to Southern Queensland Rural Health and to Health Workforce Queensland so that you can, if you've got specific questions, you can follow up with everyone. Can you briefly tell us about your role with Health Workforce Queensland and explain what the need for rural health professionals looks like?
Oh, hi, Meredith. I just got back from the breakout room. So, yes, my role here is I work for Health Workforce Queensland as a regional coordinator for Western Queensland. So my role is to sort of the variety of different roles, and it's in to support a lot of the allied health, nursing, and GPs in gaining employment in rural and remote settings in Western Queensland. So that could be providing advice and guidance to relevant registrations and pathways that the doctors and allied health staff and nursing may need, with memberships and requirements of relevant professional development. So as well as giving them career support pathways, and also finding the right job and have them the right fit to the community where they're going to. So that's a bit of a nutshell. It's also supplying incentive packages and relocation assistance, providing rural orientation to the area that they might be seeking employment with, as well as support through ongoing support once they're actually placed in that role. So yeah, it's a variety of different skills and support that we provide through Health Workforce Solutions.
And thanks, Liz. How would you describe, what we refer to as the health workforce gap? Like, what is what is the need? What does that look like? Does it, for people that live in rural communities, what's the difference?
Well, the gap in need is probably more the fact that they are really appreciative of the health professionals coming into the community and actually valuing your skill sets and your qualifications and your eagerness to support their community and getting the health services that they desperately need in those communities. And also, as you can see from the conversations I'm sure that have gone in both breakout rooms, there's the support and the actual community groups that you'll be connecting with, as well as the actual clients and patients that you'll be seeing, and how they are really valuing your skill sets. And actually, there's a desperate need for doctors, allied health and nursing throughout all regions of Western Queensland and our Aboriginal medical services. As you know, we've heard that there's a need for, social and emotional wellbeing staff, as well as allied health professionals. There's a big gap with speech pathologists and OTs, as well as GPs. So yeah, there is a great variety of options there.
Thanks, Louise. That's that provides a good overview. And I think Karita, this might be a good point to bring you in, and as Health Workforce Queensland's scholarships coordinator, and perhaps just explain to the students at what part of their rural career journey that they would meet you and what that would mean to them.
So I basically administer the scholarships program for Health Workforce Queensland. You would come to me when you have got your qualification, you're now working in a rural remote community in Queensland, and you're wanting to do further upskilling on your current qualifications to provide more services to the community. The program specifically can provide up to $10,000 in support in a 12-month period for things like conferences, workshops, online courses. It also can assist you with doing things such as paying for your masters and also grad certs, grad diplomas, basically anything that you would need to basically be better prepared and skilled to provide services to that community. We very much know this funding is needed, and we very much look at applications when they come through with eyes trying to find those yeses that we can say to, because we want to fund health professionals in these communities so that you guys want to stay long term, and you know that you can also improve your career and grow your career within those communities, and you're not just out there without support.
I think that some of our speakers have utilised the scholarship program, Karita.
Yes, Gary Wood as well as Hin Win have both utilised the scholarships program. They're both, I hope they don't mind me saying, they're both on scholarships, doing masters and a grad cert, both actually in the skincare field, which obviously being in Queensland, we have that lovely Queensland sun, which obviously is a huge issue for the rural remote communities. So hopefully they're enjoying their studies. I'm hoping. I haven't heard anything. I'm assuming it's all going well, but it's great to see that we are actually seeing that communities are going to benefit from upskilling happening through the program.
So maybe we could hear from you, Gary, as to how that's worked for you.
Oh, can I see me? Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's a really good resource. I got, I think, $14,000 to do a GP certificate in dermatology, which is fantastic because that is not one of my strong suits. And there is skin cancer left, right, and center out here. So I think that's fantastic. And there's a lot of I was actually really surprised at the amount of financial incentives that there were to go rural as a doctor. Even things like moving. You know, someone paid for me to move within you guys, which was
that's
like,
the Health Workforce Solutions. Yeah,
which was fantastic. And I'm sure there's more things I'm not taking advantage of, but I'm very thankful for the things I've got.
Yeah, that was the incentive relocation packages that we can support for health professionals to go to rural and remote areas of Queensland up to M2 and above. So it's actually supporting, especially with new grads, we find that a lot of the expenses to get there can be a hindrance. So when we show that we can give them a bit of support that way, as well as with the scholarships and bursaries program, it really does help them set up for their future careers and becoming a rural generalist in a lot of different ways.
It's actually probably worth mentioning too. So the scholarships program, since I've started, has actually had quite a few changes to the guidelines to actually incorporate more of rural remote Queensland, as well as supporting more professions as well and upskilling that we can support. So we do look at the needs of the community. We listen to the feedback we get. We take that to the health department so that we are better utilising the funding to really support the communities where they actually need it.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to get past a concern I know often the students have, and I'm sure they passes on to graduates, that that there aren't opportunities for professional development, and so this is a great way to ensure that that takes place. Dr.
Meredith.
Yes, I was going to ask you to. Off you go.
Sorry, I just want to thank Health Workforce and Karita for doing all the scholarship requests for me for my master's, and Louise was the one who introduced me, because I was in the dark. I've been in rural area for nearly 7 years now. I actually didn't know about this scholarship and everything until Louise mentioned it to me, and like maybe 2 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And I'm really appreciative of that, and it has been really good. So I'm really glad that it's like everyone, I mean, like the medical students and everyone now knows the opportunity, because I'm very grateful for that.
Thanks, Dr. And I think on that note of gratitude, I will need to start to close up for tonight. So Tonight, we felt like we took a significant step towards closing the knowledge gap between us and our understanding of Indigenous health. And although this brings us to the end of Go Rural virtually, Goondir, we hope it's the beginning of many more meaningful conversations in the future for you. I'd like to sincerely thank all the GRV speech, that's short for Go Rural virtually, speakers who shared their time and experience with us, as well as the Health Workforce Queensland team members who made tonight possible. And I just want to ask if Linda Lee is still with us. Linda, are you still there?
Yes.
Good. Just get your harmonica ready, please, because you're going to close this out with a tune.
Play it, that's the problem.
That's okay. Just you know what you can do. So if you'd like to stay connected with Health Workforce Queensland or find out more information about how we can support your rural journey, please contact us by email or visit our website, and we'll be in contact with you all post tonight. And thank you for joining us. And Linda Lee will take us away with her amazing harmonica.
Great. Okay, ciao. It was really nice. That's all I can do.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.